Symmetry is a pattern that shows reflection of images. Radial symmetry is a symmetry formed around a central axis. Bilateral symmetry is a concept that two opposite sides have identical features. I have here 5 examples of symmetry patterns that I can only see inside our house. So the first one is this sunglass. So as you can see, it is the same on both sides. My second example of a symmetry pattern is this tongue. So as you can see, it is the same on both sides. My third example of a symmetry pattern is this bra. So as you can see, it is the same on both sides. My fourth example of a symmetry pattern is this plate. So as you can see, if I will half it, it is the same on both sides. My fifth example of a symmetry pattern is this tray. So I will half it, so it is the same on both sides. The second pattern is fractal. It is a pattern which repeats at progressively smaller sizes and angles. So my first example of a fractal pattern is this tree. So this is an example of fractal patterns. My second example of fractal pattern is this fern. So as you can see, it is a pattern which repeats at progressively smaller sizes and angles. My third examples of fractal pattern is this plant. This is gabi-gabi. So as you can see, it is a pattern which repeats at progressively smaller sizes and angles. So my fourth example of fractal pattern is this kind of plant. The name of this plant is crocodile plant. So here. So my fifth example of fractal pattern is this kind of plant. I don't know what's the name of this, but this is the example of fractal pattern. Spiral pattern is a pattern that moves around at a central point and continuously widening. I have here 5 examples of spiral patterns. So my first example of a spiral pattern is this notebook spring. So this is the example of a spiral pattern. So my second example of spiral pattern is this kind of plant. So this is a San Francisco plant. So this is the example of spiral pattern. So my third example of spiral pattern is this plant stand. This is the example of spiral pattern. My fourth example of spiral pattern is this telephone cord. So this is the example of spiral pattern. My fifth example of spiral pattern is this hair tie or a ponytail. Tessellation pattern is a pattern that repeats figures closely fitting together with no gaps in between. I have here 5 examples of tessellation pattern. So the first example is this towel. So this is the example of tessellation pattern. My second example of tessellation pattern is this wallpaper bricks. So this is the example of tessellation pattern. My third example of tessellation pattern is these tiles. So this is the example of tessellation pattern. The fourth example of tessellation pattern is this kind of floor mat. So this is the example of tessellation patterns. My fifth example of tessellation patterns is this kind of polo shirt. So this is the example of tessellation patterns. Mathematics is the science of patterns and nature exploits just about every pattern that there is, by Ian Stewart.